Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Our top story: President Trump says he may delay his trip to China as he calls on Beijing to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, the Treasury Secretary hints at what might be holding up the trip.
It would be a decision President made as Commander-in-Chief to stay in the White House or to stay in the United States while this war is being prosecuted.
The U.S. and China have resumed trade talks in Paris, discussing tariffs, trade volumes, and a possible new board of trade. Officials say the talks are constructive as both sides prepare for a potential Trump-Xi summit in Beijing, though the dates may shift. China is ramping up military activity around Taiwan again. Warplanes and ships are back in the area, raising concerns about renewed pressure on the island nation amid the ongoing war in Iran. And a former U.S. Marine and intelligence analyst faces federal charges for allegedly sending top secret U.S. defense information to two people, including one in China. And before we dive into today's news, here's a message from our sponsor. As we report every day, global markets are becoming more uncertain. China's growing economy and growing tensions with the U.S. are reshaping the financial landscape, and China is buying gold at record rates to diversify its foreign reserves and decrease its reliance on the U.S. dollar. It isn't just countries that can use gold to protect their wealth, it's individuals as well. That's why we believe in protecting what's real. Physical gold and silver from American Hartford Gold offers stability when markets turn unpredictable. Unlike paper assets, these are tangible stores of value that have weathered economic turmoil, political instability, and inflation for centuries. American Hartford Gold holds an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and thousands of 5-star reviews from satisfied customers. You can have gold and silver delivered right to your home or stored safely in a tax-advantaged gold IRA. And right now, when you call and mention China in Focus, you could get up to $15,000 in free silver with your first purchase. Call 855-403-1118 or text China to 65532. That's China to 65532 or call 855-403-1118. You can also click the link in the description down below. Protect what you've earned, because in uncertain times, truth and value still matter. President Trump signaling he may delay his trip to China. That's after he asked Beijing to help keep the Strait of Hormuz open, saying China needs it more than the U.S. Here's the president speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One on Sunday.
We're talking to countries about policing the straits, because they are the ones, we don't get oil, very little, 1%, 2%. And China, as an example, gets about 90% of its oil from the Hormuz Strait. It's a place from which they get their energy. And they should come and they should help us protect it. You could make the case that maybe we shouldn't even be there at all because we don't need it. We have a lot of oil.
Just one day after calling for a team effort on the Strait of Hormuz, President Trump shared his thoughts on the upcoming China trip with the Financial Times. Trump says he wants to hear Beijing's response before his China trip, originally scheduled for the end of the month. But the president hinted he may delay the trip and didn't say for how long. On Monday, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent shared more details on a possible delay of Trump's China trip. Take a look.
We will see whether the visit takes place as scheduled, but what I do want to parse, and there's a false narrative out there, that if the meetings are delayed, it wouldn't be delayed because the president demanded that China police the Straits of Hormuz. It would be
because there was a report out to that effect this morning.
That's completely false. So if the meeting for some reason is rescheduled, it would be rescheduled because of logistics. The president wants to remain in D.C. to coordinate the war effort. And that traveling abroad at a time like this may not be optimal. It would be a decision President made as Commander-in-Chief to stay in the White House or to stay in the United States while this war is being prosecuted.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt backed Bessent's remarks, saying President Trump looks forward to visiting China, but the trip's date may be pushed back. She emphasized Trump's top priority right now is to ensure the success of Operation Epic Fury. China responded the next day, stopping short of saying whether it would send troops, but called on all parties to stop the military operation. According to official data, about 45% of China's oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz. The disruption of this key passageway has already raised China's gas prices, despite the country's large oil reserves. Iran's military has essentially closed the strait amid military operations, threatening to attack any ship that tries to cross. Allied countries are responding to President Trump's call to secure the Strait of Hormuz. On Monday, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said efforts to reopen and secure the oil route would not be a NATO mission. Instead, he said the work would involve a broad alliance, including Gulf partners, European countries, and the U.S.
Ultimately, we have to reopen the Strait of Hormuz to ensure stability in the market. That is not a simple task. So we're working with all of our allies, including our European partners, to bring together a viable collective plan that can restore freedom of navigation in the region as quickly as possible.
Starmer says the UK would not be drawn into a wider war in Iran. He discussed the Strait of Hormuz during phone calls with Trump the night before. The British Prime Minister also met with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney to discuss the matter. Germany's foreign minister says NATO has no responsibility regarding the Strait of Hormuz. And EU's foreign ministers will discuss strengthening a naval mission in the region, but expansion to the strait is not expected. Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi said the country has no plan to send naval escort ships. She plans to visit Washington this week for talks with President Trump on the Iran conflict. Meanwhile, South Korea says it will consult closely with the U.S. before making a decision. The U.S. and Chinese delegations resumed trade talks on Monday, which began the day before in Paris. Officials are exploring new managing mechanisms, including a possible U.S.-China Board of Trade. The Paris talks followed several meetings to ease tensions last year in Geneva, London, Stockholm, Madrid, and the capital of Malaysia. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Trade Representative Jamieson Greer met again with Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng and Chief Trade Negotiator Li Chenggan.
The meetings were very good. We've got a stable relationship. This is our sixth meeting in our economic consultations. The Vice Premier, He Lifeng, and I have developed great respect for each other. But really, the meetings are generated by the great respect that the two leaders, President Trump, Party Chair Xi, have for each other.
Bessent remained tight-lipped on the details of China's Buy American promises, confirming that the trade volumes are being discussed.
What we do discuss, exactly as you said, are our purchase commitments from the Chinese. And we also explain to them our new tariff regime and how that would work. The 122 tariffs that were implemented, Section 122, that were implemented right after the Supreme Court ruled against the president's use of IEEPA. And we explained the Section 301 studies that Ambassador Greer and USTR will be doing, which should be completed by July.
The U.S. has already launched a fresh Section 301 investigation into China. The latest probe targets Beijing's alleged failure to address forced labor practices. The result could trigger a new wave of tariffs in the coming months. China's international trade representative, Li Chenggan, expressed serious concern over the move. Despite that, Li described the Paris talks as in-depth, candid, and constructive consultations. Meanwhile, the U.S. and China are exploring new ways to manage trade and investment during talks in Paris. One possible body could be called the U.S.-China Board of Trade. According to U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer, this body would help identify which goods the U.S. should import from China and which it should export, focusing on areas of mutual benefit. Reuters reported another one might be the Board of Investment, which would address discrete investment issues that may arise between the two countries. The talks are aimed at paving the way for a summit later this month between President Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping in Beijing. But Trump suggested the trip could be delayed, and White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirmed Monday that the dates may be moved. Meanwhile, Beijing says it will remain in communication with the U.S. regarding the planned visit. While the U.S. rolls out military action in Iran, the geopolitical situation in the Western Pacific is also changing. The CCP had regularly sent military aircraft around Taiwan, but those flights paused for more than 2 weeks, prompting speculation in Taipei. On Sunday, Taiwan reported the return of large-scale Chinese Air Force activities around the island.
On Saturday, Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense detected 26 Chinese military aircraft and 7 naval vessels near the island. 11 planes crossed the Taiwan Strait median line. From February 27th, Chinese military aircraft largely disappeared around Taiwan, with only sporadic, small-scale flights. Beijing offered no explanation, fueling speculation in Taipei about its intentions.
When I was in the military before a major exercise or deployment, we would often stand down reducing flights and repairing all weapons and equipment. Only test flights for newly fixed aircraft were allowed. Nothing else flew as we were preparing for deployment, exercises, or potential combat.
The reduction of Chinese military flights is mainly political due to the ongoing 2 sessions in China and Taiwan's defense budget review. By temporarily cutting or suspending incursions, China is using cross-domain tactics to create the illusion that Taiwan does not need to spend on defense.
Some experts say the temporary disappearance could be due to Beijing adjusting its pressure on Taiwan ahead of President Trump's planned March 31st visit, or Xi Jinping's ongoing purge of senior generals. Reporting from Taiwan, Joey Chu, NTD News.
A former U.S. Marine in Texas County, Missouri, is facing federal charges after prosecutors say he shared classified national defense information with people who weren't authorized to receive it. One of those messages allegedly went to someone believed to be in China. Seth Chambers was indicted Friday on 2 counts of willfully transmitting national defense information. Chambers previously worked as a Marine Corps intelligence analyst and later as a civilian contractor in Iraq. Prosecutors say he held a security clearance allowing him to access highly classified material, including top-secret information. According to court documents, Chambers allegedly sent excerpts from classified government documents to 2 different people. The first was in December 2022, when a white paper containing passages from classified material was sent to someone in Maryland. The second allegedly happened in April 2023, when similar information was sent to someone believed to be in China. If convicted, Chambers faces up to 10 years in federal prison on each count. 2 lawmakers are warning that the Trump administration's decision to allow exports of advanced AI chips to China could threaten U.S. national security. On Monday, Senator Elizabeth Warren and Congressman Gregory Meeks criticized the Trump administration for approving sales of NVIDIA's H200 chips to China. They're urging Congress to pass bipartisan legislation to keep advanced American technology out of Beijing's hands. The lawmakers say the chips could be used for military purposes, strengthening China's technological and defense capabilities. The approval follows a decision by President Trump in December to allow limited chip sales to China. Warren and Meeks say they are concerned the move could undermine U.S. economic and national security if stronger safeguards aren't put in place. Coming up, arbitrary detention, families torn apart, and torture with electric batons. We take a closer look at the Chinese regime's campaign against Christians.
State security agents did not even allow this pastor to take care of his dying mom.
More on that after the break here on China in Focus. Welcome back to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. From tearing families apart to torturing Christians with electric batons, we take a closer look at the Chinese regime's campaign against this religious community. American Thought Leaders host Jan Jekielek spoke with Pastor Bob Fu for insight. Take a look.
The reason I am so concerned with the dehumanizing rhetoric ramping up is because that's always sort of a prequel to atrocity crimes. And we've seen this phenomenon for those of us that look at crimes against humanity often. There's always that part that happens because, basically even in whatever society, whatever totalitarian dictatorship, Most people are not psychopaths, and they need to be kind of tricked in their minds into treating someone or a group as less than or other, or maybe they're bad, they're doing bad things, they're harming society. This is always how it's always portrayed. Or they're lesser than I am. They're kind of less important. And so, yes, as you pointed out, right, this is what was done to the Falun Gong in 1999 with massive propaganda being pushed through the system, but also to like ethnic minorities, to the Tibetans and Uyghurs in particular, who are kind of, demoted, right, in terms of their level of humanity in the rhetoric itself. Can you give me some examples maybe of what you've seen with Christians in this respect?
I remembered even back to 2002 when I received a stack of handwritten testimonies about torture from mostly a group of Christian ladies who was tortured in the most inhuman nature. I mean, those Christian ladies, I think at least I still have that in written form. They use their own blood, finger blood, just fingerprinted, and basically testifying how truthful they shared. From strip off their clothes totally naked to like 8 the electric shock batons, torturing them from the head to toe, and including their private parts. And to one lady even described she was taken to a provincial police academy in a dorm, like 4 or 5 policemen, half naked, and basically put her naked and start torturing her, and until with the electric shock batons, and she was crying out, basically asking the Lord to take her life. I mean, you and I, we know our Christian faith. We rarely heard any Christians would commit suicide, and that is doctrinally not even allowed. But she just was tortured so severely. She was asking the Lord to take her life, that she said she would rather to be in the presence of the Lord than being tortured that way. And then all of a sudden, an electric shock baton was put into her mouth, and she passed out. And then she was taken even to a ER room in the local hospital. Even the local, the hospital nurse starts rebuking this policeman and said, what did she do, any wrong for this young lady to warrant such a torture against this lady? And, that I also read testimonies like that, that the one Christian lady during her interrogation, the interrogator specifically put kind of a piece of paper and write a letter God, or like forced her to stoop on the name of God. You see, this is like a purposely deliberate destruction of your conscience by force. They try to, remind me, of course, what happened to some Falun Gong practitioners, right? And they want to, during the interrogation, they put Mr. Li Hongzhi's name or picture there, and then I have read testimonies of these Tibetan monks, and who were forced to do the same thing on the portrait and picture of Dalai Lama, basically to step on and have to shout a slogan like something utter hatred toward their spiritual leader. This kind of treatment is in alignment with the similar Communist Party's ideology and doctrine. I know you have a book coming out, analyzed from the very deep theological or if you're theoretical analysis, why communism in the end is the source of this kind of evil. So I've seen, even as recent as just in 2025, when the Xi Jinping launched the largest wave of persecution against urban house church movement, like the Zion Church. Many of their family members were being mistreated that way too. Like one of the house church pastors from Zion Church in Beijing, when he was being arrested and put a handcuff, and her mom, who was a very elderly lady, was in front of him and had a heart attack. Even in the most kind of ordinary circumstance, you would let the son at least to comfort his mom a little bit, who was dying, right? No, those state security agents did not even allow this pastor to take care of his dying mom, and somebody else had to call an ambulance to rescue her in the emergency room in the local hospital. And you have seen the family members, went to the Beihai City, number 1, number 2 detention center, where the 18 arrested are being held. So I think this is happening across the board.
That's all for today's China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. If you have any feedback on the show or have something you'd like to see us cover, send us an email at chinainfocus@ntd.com. We'd love to hear from you. For on-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.